Before life began, before even the cosmos took shape, there was light and there was void. Unfettered by the confines of time and space, the light swelled across all existence in the form of a boundless, prismatic sea. Great torrents of living energy flitted through its mirrored depths, their movements conjuring a symphony of joy and hope. The ocean of light was dynamic and ever-shifting. Yet, as it expanded, some of its energies faded and dimmed, leaving behind pockets of cold nothingness. From the absence of light in these spaces, a new power coalesced and came to be. This power was the void, a dark and vampiric force driven to devour all energy, to twist creation inward to feed upon itself. The void quickly grew and spread its influence, moving against the flowing waves of light. The mounting tension between these two opposing yet inseparable energies eventually ignited a series of catastrophic explosions, rupturing the fabric of reality and birthing a new realm into existence. In that moment, the physical universe was born. The energies released by the clash of light and void raged across the nascent cosmos, raw matter merging and spinning into primordial worlds without number. For long epochs, this ever-expanding universe, the great dark beyond, broiled in a maelstrom of fire and magic. The most unstable energies coalesced into an astral dimension known as the Twisting Nether. Light and void collided and bled together at the edges of this realm, throwing it into turmoil. Although tangentially linked to the great dark beyond, the Twisting Nether existed outside the borders of the physical universe. Even so, the Nether's volatile energies would occasionally tear through the veil of the great dark, flooding into reality and warping creation. The cataclysmic birth of the cosmos also flung shards of light throughout reality. These shards suffused the matter of myriad worlds with the spark of life, giving rise to creatures of wondrous and terrible diversity. The most common forms of life to appear were the elemental spirits, primordial beings of fire, water, earth, and air. These creatures were native to nearly every physical world. Many of them reveled in the turmoil that held sway over the early ages of creation. Occasionally, clouds of fractured light gathered and gave shape to beings of far greater power and far greater potential. Among these were the Naaru, benevolent creatures composed of scintillating holy energies. When they gazed out across the immeasurable universe, they saw a realm of limitless possibilities. The Naaru vowed to use their mastery over holy magic to spread hope and nurture life wherever they could find it. Even more extraordinary than the Naaru were the colossal Titans. Their spirits, known as world souls, formed deep within the fiery core of a small number of worlds. For ages, these nascent Titans slumbered, their energies suffusing the celestial bodies they inhabited. When the Titans finally awoke, they did so as living worlds. Cosmic winds howled across their gigantic forms, bodies shrouded in a cloak of stardust, skin crisscrossed with silvery mountain peaks and oceans shimmering with latent magic. With eyes that shone like brilliant stars, they observed the fledgling cosmos and became enraptured by its mysteries. Whereas the Naaru set out to safeguard life, the Titans embarked on a different journey. They wandered the distant corners of the great dark, searching for others of their kind. This grand, far-reaching voyage would one day alter the course of creation and shape the destiny of all living things. No one knows when or why the first Titan awoke, but legend holds that his name was Aman'thul. Though Aman'thul was alone, he knew in his heart that others of his kind must exist. Thus he explored the worlds of the great dark beyond, intent on finding more Titans. His quest was arduous and lonely, but it was ultimately fulfilling. In time, he discovered other nascent world souls. Aman'thul lovingly nurtured these newfound kin and roused them from slumber. Those who awakened devoted themselves to his noble search. Aman'thul and his siblings later became known as the Pantheon. They were benevolent by nature, creatures aligned with order and stability. The Pantheon possessed a natural affinity to the latent magic in the universe. Fully aware of their incredible power, they bound themselves to a code of temperance toward the civilizations they encountered, even those of the unruly elemental spirits. The Titans of the Pantheon came to realize that order was crucial to finding others of their kind. On each world they encountered, they employed techniques to ascertain whether a world soul was present. The Pantheon would first pacify the world's raging elemental populations. Then, they would reshape the world, forming great mountains, fathomless seas, and roiling skies. Lastly, the Titans would seed myriad life forms across the newly ordered world. In doing so, the Pantheon hoped to call forth the world soul and help bring it to maturity. Most of the time, however, the worlds visited by the Titans proved inert. The Pantheon vowed to maintain and protect all of these worlds, even those that did not contain a slumbering spirit. To do so, they empowered primitive life forms to uphold the integrity of their ordered worlds. The Pantheon also embedded colossal machines in the surface of the worlds that they had shaped. Through these devices, the Titans could monitor their worlds and purge them of life should their evolutionary paths succumb to disorder. To aid the Pantheon, Aman'thul called upon a mysterious race known as the Constellar. These celestial beings observed the many worlds ordered by the Titans, staying vigilant for any sign of instability. When it was necessary, the Constellar could initiate a fail-safe procedure to scour life from a world in the hopes of resetting its evolutionary process. Over the ages, the Pantheon discovered fewer and fewer world souls. Yet they remained undaunted. They knew that the universe was vast beyond measure, and even after epochs of exploring the stars, they had only plumbed but a small corner of creation. Unbeknownst to the Titans, malign forces were also hard at work in the distant reaches of the Great Dark. Chronicle Volume 1, Chapter 1 Mythos, the very beginning to the Chronicle series. And one of the biggest points of contention for my theories, because I don't think that what this book is telling you is entirely true, and I think that it's pretty misleading. So let's back it up to what it says at the very start. We're going to just backtrack here real quick. Let's go back to the start here where it says, before life began. I've mentioned in previous videos that I believe that the Titans are not simply manifestations of forces, but they are the conduit of said forces. So what I mean by that is Eonar, I believe, is where life comes from. She is the goddess of life in our universe. Now, I will reiterate once again that I think that the Titans are the highest level of gods in the universe. There's, I believe, only one being that is more powerful than them and surpasses them, and I do believe that that is Azeroth. And I will once again reiterate, if you haven't seen one of my past videos, you should go check it out. I believe that Azeroth is creation, the Titan of raw creation. Now, it says here, before the cosmos took shape, so before anyone or anything started to go around and start ordering things, before anything started to stride out across the cosmos, there was light and there was void. Then it goes on to say, unfettered by the confines of time and space. I believe that the Titan Aman'thul and the Titan Norgannon are supposed to be time and space. Aman'thul time, Norgannon space. Norgannon being the master of celestial magics. Celestial literally meaning space. And stars. I would think that makes perfect sense. Aman'thul being time, like Father Time, the first Titan allegedly to have awoken. I think that makes sense too. But unfettered by these confines, the light swelled across all existence in the form of a boundless prismatic sea. Prismatic is an interesting word because prismatic is generally something that happens when, let's say you take light and you take a diamond or a crystal, we'll say, and you shine the light through it. It will oftentimes, depending on the material, create this prismatic effect of light where you can kind of see the spectrum of light like a rainbow. And that is to be considered prismatic. Now, the light that we see in-game, oftentimes, like from the Naaru, for example, and most of the things that are Titan-related, happens to be prismatic. It does have this kind of rainbow effect to it. The light is in almost like a spectrum. However, there are other sources of light, like Sargeras, for example, this flame, this light, that does not appear that way. it appears just as light, gold, just golden light. Think about the priest spell, Apotheosis, right? That is a good example of just this golden light. And so it makes me wonder, and makes me believe, that there are potentially two different kinds of light. One that is prismatic and is, in my opinion, a little bit unnatural in essence, and one that is non-prismatic and is more like fire. And I think that that type of light is similar to what I think that Azeroth is. I think that Azeroth is that latter, the latter of the two, the more angelic light. Not so much the holy light, something more like Valkyr, right? Rather than Naaru. I think that's the best comparison we can make. Valkyr compared to Naaru. Anyway, let's move forward. Great torrents of living energy flitted through its mirrored depths. So living energy. So before life began, there was living energy flitting through the mirrored depths, conjuring a symphony of joy and hope. Okay? The ocean of light, which it's ocean, again, a reference to water, which is something that's very, very tied to life, as some believe that all life on Earth actually came from the ocean. It was dynamic and ever-shifting, yet as it expanded, some of its energies faded and dimmed, leaving behind pockets of cold nothingness. Cold nothingness, like the cruel frozen void. From the absence of light in these spaces, a new power coalesced and came to be. A new power. But it's set up here that there was light and there was void. Okay, maybe this is just explaining how that came to be. Fair enough. This power was the void, a dark and vampiric force, driven to devour all energy. Driven by what? An insatiable hunger? Okay. To twist creation inward, to feed upon itself. Now, hold the fuck on. Hold on. If you guys watched my last video, doesn't it say in Chronicle Volume 2 that Agrimar was afraid that the spore mounds would grow so large on Draenor that they would consume everything, and then what would happen to them? They would twist inward on themselves and begin to feed on themselves. They would become what I call necrotic, or entropic in the sense of energy. For a living thing to twist inward on itself and begin to destroy itself from the inside, that is what should be considered necrotic. But when energy twists inward on itself, raw energy, that manifests as pure entropy, that which is the void. The void quickly grew and spread its influence, again, growth. Moving against the flowing waves of light. The mounting tension between these two opposing yet inseparable energies eventually ignited a series of catastrophic explosions, rupturing the fabric of creation and birthing a new realm into existence. Birthing. Okay. We have a lot of references to birth, growth, water, living, right? There's a lot of little key hints just in this first paragraph that are kind of pointing at life, which is kind of interesting. But remember, this is before life began that all of this took place. Okay. Now, here's the question. Can things like this, theoretically, can things like this happen without the presence of time? Can things like the transfer of light into void, can that happen? Can entropy happen without time? No, it can't. Entropy requires time. Time is essential in order for entropy to even happen. If time stopped and everything froze today, change would completely stop. The universe would become completely, theoretically, stagnant, and nothing would be able to progress at all. Well, I have proposed in videos in the past that, in some of my more recent videos, that the holy light in this creation mythos is a crock of shit, and that this creation mythos is basically misleading you. Because I think that Azeroth, creation, the dawn of creation, if you will, is what the true light was. But there's no way that I can prove that. This is what Chronicle says, and so the majority of people that read it are going to go off of Chronicle. But let's go back here real quick. There is one thing that it says right here before it actually starts the story. And it says here in Chronicle, Azeroth is but one small world in a vast universe, a realm filled with potent magics and mighty beings. Since the dawn of time, these forces have influenced Azeroth and the surrounding cosmos, setting the stars in motion and shaping the destiny of countless worlds in mortal civilizations. I mean, just think about that phrase, the dawn of time. Dawn. What happens during dawn here on Earth? The light comes, right? The dawn of time. I love the way, if they actually are doing wordplay to that level, it's pretty slick. The dawn of time. Think back to Illidan. My destiny is my own. And who allegedly tried to shape Illidan's destiny? It was the light, wasn't it? At least that's what Zira really strongly leads us to believe. That Illidan's destiny was forged and cast to what? Zira calls it the cosmic winds. Well, I've been wondering for a while where the holy light comes from. And I proposed in my video that it comes from ANR, the Lifebinder, because as it says here in Chronicle, the Naaru, the conduits of the holy light, pretenders, if you ask me, want to protect and nurture life, right? Well, I just read that to you. It's plain as day, and the Titans vowed to do the same thing. They also vowed and bound themselves. Another word, bound, bind, bound, life binder. They bound themselves to a code of temperance to the mortal civilizations. So they have a code, they have rules. There are certain rules that cannot be broken, and there are certain rules and there are certain things that aren't protected by rules. Now, I thought, ANR would be the perfect option because, well, it nurtures life, keeps it safe, but I'm not so sure about that. I do think that the holy light is something that's crafted by the Pantheon. I do think it is a way by which they can influence the mortals, and they can basically, use the good benevolent shit, because Naaru are completely benevolent, right? Zira, right? Use that benevolent trick. Oh, and the Titans are also inherently benevolent. I don't know about that. What I saw them do to Argus didn't seem terribly benevolent. The way that ANR looks at Sargeras when they're about to imprison him doesn't seem terribly benevolent. She looks incredibly hateful. And that's not a trait of benevolence. And Sargeras himself ended up doing some things that were considered non-benevolent. So for Chronicle to state that Titans are inherently benevolent, I think is dog shit. That's a lie. That is not true. It is very rare to have something that is purely benevolent, and let me be honest with you, most times things that have purely benevolent intentions end up being malevolent through their benevolent actions. So it's like the light wants to take over the universe, make everything living, and keep it safe, but then you start to really think about that, and you're like, well, if the whole of the universe becomes bathed in light, and we are all one within the light, is it going to be like Chronicle, where that light is going to fade and then we're all going to go to void through entropy? Or would time have to stop for that to happen? Would time literally have to end? The end time? Would that have to happen for that progression of entropy to completely stop? And then what? We live in a cold, stagnant universe where nothing ever moves, nothing ever dies, nothing ever happens. It's basically an eternal prison. How terrifying is that? But I digress. The point is that I think, and one of my dear friends, Lumino, who has extensive knowledge of D&D and doesn't hide things from me like some of the old mods in my Discord, he has opened my eyes to a lot of shit that I think that WoW has incorporated into it. But we were discussing last night the potential that the Holy Light does not come from ANR, that it is being manipulated by ANR, but that the conduit from which the Holy Light comes from is actually Aman'thul, the leader of the Pantheon. There's a couple of reasons why we say this. Like I said, entropy, the existence, or lack thereof, of the void, requires entropy. Light must entropy into void. It must have time to do so. I've said in one of my more recent videos, in the same video that I keep referring to about ANR and the light, that the Holy Light is heavily arcane based, and there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest this. If you'd like to see that, I would really appreciate if you go check out that video so that I don't have to just re-explain all of it in this one. But basically, there's a bunch of hints in the game that make it seem like the Holy Light has some arcane in it, and it is definitely has something to do with it. Now, here's the thing, is that we're told that Arcane is supposed to represent order, but Arcane is inherently chaotic energy. It is very chaotic. Think about the Nightwell. I mean, the chronomatic anomaly, that is basically super fucking chaotic. It's a chaotic time fragment, if you will. There's literally chaotids that spawn in that fight. It's chaos. Arcane is chaotic. Time is a little bit chaotic, as we see it manifested. But the light is not chaotic. It's incredibly orderly. It's very orderly. And to me, this makes sense as to why the Pantheon would utilize it, and why Aman'thul would be the perfect representation of it. Aman'thul literally has golden eyes, and in the old RPG lore, he has a staff, one end of which is light and bright with golden lightning. The other end is dark and purple with purple lightning. What? This is literally like light and void that we're seeing in the staff. But not only that, he has his hand cast out like this, and from it is emitting a brilliant light. Aman'thul, I think, is where the light comes from, or at least he is, in some way, he's connected to it. He is necessary for its existence, sort of like Sargeras and Argus and the Fel. Those two seem to be necessary, shadow and flame, or radiance, as referred to in D&D. Radiance, it's not quite the same as flame, but it's more like it's more than flame. But anyway, I digress. The point is that Aman'thul seems necessary for that. But again, if we are to say that Aman'thul represents time, then time, that entropy, is also the cause for the void. So the question therein becomes, if Aman'thul is the conduit of holy light, which I think it's very plausible to say that he is, just given the context of what we've seen in the imagery for Aman'thul, he's the High Father of the Pantheon, and I believe in the RPG lore, Shadows and Light, it actually says that all mortal worlds would, in some way or another, pay respects to Aman'thul. And I think that that's because the Titans have tried to influence pretty much every single mortal world with light. Every mortal world that has mortals on it, they want to send the light there to protect it and keep it safe until eventually it can turn into void, because that's benevolent. But I think that's very strange, right? I would say that with all that considered, that I think it's very possible that the holy light and the entropy which births it into void come from Aman'thul. See, the problem here is that in Chronicle it says that he was no one knows who the first Titan was that awoke, but legend holds that his name was Aman'thul. Well, I'm sorry, but sometimes legends aren't true, and that's kind of the reason why they're called legends, and sometimes even myths, because there's no way to prove that that is the case. I mean, does creation come before time? Does time come before creation? Does life come after time or before it? When does chaos come into the mix? This is cosmological questions. This is basic cosmology, shit like Tolkien, shit like Warhammer 40k. This is not new stuff to be talking about. This is basic D&D shit. The origins of the universe, and that's exactly the point of cosmology. So what really came first and in what order? Well, we can just go off of legend, right? Then we learn that Aman'thul goes around and tries to wake up by lovingly nurturing them. Okay? I don't know if I believe that. From slumber, they wake up. It's possible. Aman'thul is very similar to the god Zeus, however, and Zeus is not exactly known for being the best guy ever. Zeus is kind of an asshole. Zeus can't keep his dick in his pants. And Zeus actually overthrew Kronos, who wielded a scythe. Oh, weird. Huh. So it's almost like, Death, Argus, who wields a scythe, similar to Kronos, was overthrown by the other gods, or something happened to him, and he was bound by something powerful. And all of a sudden, we have a character like Aman'thul, who is very akin to Zeus, apparently leading the Pantheon. However, Zeus, as I said, always had some form of another attachment to female goddesses or even mortals in certain cases, and so sometimes that got the best of him. Now here's the thing, is that I think in WoW, Aeonar is that best of him, so to speak. It's this correlation that you can draw, an underlying correlation. I think Aeonar is the way by which Aman'thul is being manipulated. And as I stated in my last video, I don't think the other members of the Pantheon have any choice, because it says in Chronicle right there, as I just read, they bound themselves to a code of temperance. And later on in Chronicle, it says that Aenar reminded Sargeras that they had sworn to protect living things whenever possible. And if Aenar falls under that umbrella of life, well, then that might mean that the Pantheon has no choice other than to listen to her. So, the whole point which I'm getting at is that the holy light, which seems to be arcane in nature, which leads to the void inevitably through the force of entropy, to basically become entropy incarnate, I think that comes from Aman'thul. Lumino actually sent me a picture from the Alliance War campaign where you can see Jaina, and I believe it's one of the Void Elves, using Arcane and Void in one spell and weaving them together like it's nothing. Like they didn't have to do some special incantation. The two forces literally just work together. As if one birthed the other one. Huh. Well, that's a bit strange. I mean, just think about the Xalatath quote, who's a void entity, by the way. I know the Naaru consider us horrors to be resisted. We do not share this view. They are merely beloved brethren that lost the true path. They will return to their masters. In time. In time? Really? That's some pretty clever wordplay if you ask me. Their masters in time? Right. Here's the deal. I'm pretty much convinced at this point that the Void Lords that are referred to in Chronicle are the Titan Pantheon. Later in Chronicle, it talks about how the Void Lords had sinister plans for creation. Creation, which I believe is Azeroth. And those who have meddled the most with Azeroth are the Titans. They have shaped this world. They have tried to influence it. They have tried to do a lot of shit to this world. And I think there's many things that we still don't know about. Uldir just being one of them. It was something that we only just learned exists today, which is not mentioned in Chronicle. Again, Chronicle, God, this shit is good, but fucking hell is it misleading. It doesn't even tell you about Argus. And let me tell you something. There's been references to Argus since the vanilla version of the game. Like, the whole premise of Argus and death is not new. And so, I think that this book is kind of feeding you lies. Like, what it's telling you is sort of true, but it's not entirely true. But these Void Lords had sinister plans for creation. Sargeras had to figure out what they were and wanted to stop them. And then, as I've pointed out, Sargeras' main way of combating the Void Lords is by destroying the light and by destroying life. What the fuck? It's almost to say that life and holy light lead to the void. And that the masters of the light and life are actually the masters of the void as well. You really think the Titans don't know how to manipulate the void? Like, Aman'thul couldn't take this low energy fucking non-existence and alter that? You really think that the gods couldn't do that? Here's how it would work. You would take time, you would take the arcane, and you would feed it something. I don't know what you would feed it, but I assume, and this is what Lumino believes, is that you'd feed it light, true light, probably something from Azeroth, something which has been stolen. Potentially. Can't prove it, just a theory. You'd feed the arcane light, and through the entropy of arcane, it would eat away whatever that energy is until only entropy itself remained. That is what the void is. It is raw entropy incarnate. But see, the problem is that the holy light, as it is described as living energy, it should die, as all living things should. But the problem with that, I see, is that when the holy light dies, it's turning into the void, but the void is still sentient. It can take shape. It is entropy, and it seems like it's pretty miserable. Like, beings of the void don't seem terribly happy to be the void. Does that make sense? And so what I think potentially is that the void isn't dead light. The void could actually be undead light. Light that has completely been sucked of all of its energy. That's why the Void Lords and the Void entities are actually really not that strong. In the grand scheme of things, they're not that strong. Naaru seem to be able to banish things like Void much more easily, unless they themselves fall prey to it. But the light banishes the darkness very easily. So the point here is that this manifestation that we know as Holy Light and that we know as Void, I do think that they come from time, but I think that ANR is manipulating the Pantheon and controlling them in a way that she thinks that she can use the light and maybe even the void to keep all living things living forever. Even if that means, in a sense, that they become undead. Because the whole premise of undead is that they are not dead. But they're not really living either. It's like a sick state of limbo. And in most mythos, that is a sin. Undeadism and being undead, and they're a thing that shouldn't be. Like they're a horrible atrocity. And they should not be a thing. But for some reason, they are allowed to be. Now I want to finish with this. If you still think the Pantheon's benevolent and they're all good, G'huun and what happened in Uldir, the Titans basically created their own version of undeath. Did they not? The curse of G'huun doesn't kill those that are afflicted by it. It binds them to G'huun, and it binds them into eternal servitude. It binds them into undeath. They're not dying and going somewhere else. They are, as we've seen with a lot of the constructs out in Nazmir, the spirits linger. Here's the thing, is that there are also some spirits out there that are clearly Titan made. They're clad in Titan armor. They're called, I think they're called eternal protectors and shit. And they are bound into basically being wraiths, not able to die. So this whole premise of the Titans not wanting anything to die is in my opinion, coming quite clear. And the point of today's video was that I just wanted to illustrate to you some of the things that Chronicle says that I think are kind of fucked up. I mean, isn't it kind of fucked that they would literally be willing to purge, and that's a very important word, purge a world of life should it succumb to disorder? That's fucking terrifying. Like, the fact that they allegedly bound themselves to this code of temperance, but that they would be willing to purge an entire world is fucked. Like, and it's in hopes that it would reset that world. Whoa, what? That's just a hope? It's not, is it even guaranteed to work? Let me ask you this. How did the Titans purge G'huun? If you listen to Mother in Uldir, she's got some pretty interesting dialogue. If she says if you activate all the console matrices in Vectus's wing and Zekvoz's wing and in the Feta Devourer's wing, if you activate them all, you can open the Oblivion door and you can go down and do what to G'huun? You can purge it. And the way by which you purge G'huun is with a giant beam of re-origination that looks like what? A big-ass beam of holy light. And when it fades away and when it pulses, it turns purple like Arcane. Right. The Titans are not to be trusted. And I'm going to tell you this right now. They stand for order, but it is a false order. The holy light and what they're doing is a fucked up false order that will lead to everything being ordered in the void. If the whole universe is consumed by the void, then that is about as ordered as it can get. And again, Sargeras, my homie, he was the one that was trying to stop it. And here we are, thinking we're the good guys, that we're doing the right thing. And I'm telling you, this shit is no bueno. Again, Chronicle, again, I know some people meme on me for not trusting this book, but I think that it's a bad idea to blindly trust anything. Honestly, it doesn't matter if it's a book written about a game or if it's about a book written about real life religion. I'm not trying to take shots or anything. I'm just saying that I think that there are certain things that are meant to be taken literally, and there are certain things that are meant to be interpreted, and they're supposed to be thought about. And I think that Blizzard has done an excellent job at making that the case with Chronicle. And I think I'm going to do a video explaining fully why I don't exactly trust Chronicle, because there are some things in this book that actually kind of hint at the fact that maybe you shouldn't. And I'll talk about that in the future, but I didn't want this video to be 33 minutes long, but now it is, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys very much for watching this video. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to hear some more theories like this in the future. I do have a Twitter where I post a lot of lore and theory crafting stuff. Like, sometimes I just come across little things that I don't want to make a whole video about, and so I post them over there. So if you guys want to hear some interesting lore and theory crafting stuff, that's an excellent place to follow. Twitter.com/Pyromancer Sarg, S-A-R-G. Anyway, there'll be a link in the description. And then I also have a Twitch where I stream occasionally, and you guys can find me over there at twitch.tv/Pyromancer. And then I also do have a Patreon if you want to check that out. It's in the description below as well. So Anyways, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you very much. Stay awesome, and until next time, fuck the Titans and don't trust any of them. I'll see you guys later. Peace! Well, except Sargeras. We probably should have trusted him. We probably shouldn't have done what we did. Anyway, different video. I'll see you guys later.